Hello, friends. The 1116th day of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. Today, the Russian Defense Ministry announced the return of the settlements of Zolyshenka and Rubonshchina in the Kursk region. Zolyshenka is a suburb of Sudzha. Rubonshchina is located near Gogolevka, the defense center of one of the two remaining bridgeheads of the Ukrainian armed forces in the Kursk region. The second bridgehead is located south of Sudzha in the Guevo area. A number of Russian military telegram channels write that both Gogolevka and Guevo have already been taken. Others say that fighting is still ongoing for them. After the latest update to its map, Deep State confirmed the complete capture of Sudzha by Russian troops. They also regained control of Rubonshchina. In total, the Ukrainian armed forces have lost another 30 square kilometers of territory in the Kursk region. For 2 days now, Putin and Trump have been making statements that large forces of Ukrainian troops are surrounded in the Kursk region. The Ukrainian command denies this, but the Kremlin and Washington repeat their claims time and again. As I said in the previous video, there is currently no objective evidence that the encirclement is taking place. At the same time, when a week ago Russian troops began to break through the defense of the Ukrainian armed forces in the Kursk region, entering the rear through a gas pipeline, many videos began to appear with prisoners from the Ukrainian army units that did not have time to retreat. Let me remind you that individual Ukrainian military personnel also confirmed that the retreat was not organized, but chaotic and was accompanied by losses of people and equipment. The chief of the Russian General Staff, Gerasimov, reported to Putin that, as of Wednesday, the number of prisoners had reached 400 people. The veracity of this figure is now impossible to verify, but, judging by the videos that have appeared, a certain number of soldiers of the Ukrainian armed forces were indeed captured at that time due to the rapid advance of the Russian army. However, in recent days, even Russian telegram channels have not reported that large forces of the Ukrainian army still remain somewhere in the rear. At most, videos are published of individual captured Ukrainian soldiers who got lost and fell behind their units during the retreat. Perhaps there are many such fighters, but it is unlikely that there are many thousands of soldiers surrounded. The maps of both Ukrainian and Russian telegram channels show the presence of two small bridgeheads of the Ukrainian armed forces to the west of Sudzha in the Gogolevka area and to the south of Sudzha in the Guevo area. And they are not surrounded. Russian telegram channels write that both Gogolevka and Guevo are currently being stormed. Why then have Putin and Trump been declaring for 2 days in a row that the Ukrainian armed forces in the Kursk region are surrounded? Moreover, they are making these statements in the format of passing to each other. First, Putin's statement on Thursday that Ukrainian troops in the Kursk region are surrounded. Moreover, these words were voiced in the context of the fact that the continuation of fighting in the Russian region is one of the problematic issues that needs to be resolved in order to conclude a truce. Then, Trump on Friday announced the encirclement of Ukrainian troops in the Kursk region and called on Putin to spare them. Then Putin responded to this, saying that he was ready to spare their lives if they surrendered. Then Trump announced the encirclement again, after a denial from the General Staff of Ukraine. And this morning Peskov said that Putin's offer to the Ukrainian army group in the Kursk region to lay down their arms in exchange for sparing their lives is valid, but will soon expire. What does all this mean, given that the fact of encirclement itself has not been confirmed? A version is spreading in Ukrainian telegram channels that Putin, having convinced Trump that the Ukrainian armed forces in the Kursk region are encircled, will now try to exchange saving the Ukrainian troops for some concessions from Ukraine. And when Kiev refuses them, Moscow will accuse Zelensky of disrupting the ceasefire negotiations. However, this version is contradicted by the fact that Putin is not offering the Ukrainian troops a corridor for exit, but is offering them to surrender. Another version is that there is coordinated pressure from the US and Russia on Kiev, with the aim of inducing Zelensky to withdraw the Ukrainian troops that are still on the bridgeheads in the area of Gogolevka and Guvivo from the Kursk region as soon as possible. It is possible that the complete withdrawal of the Ukrainian armed forces from the Kursk region is being put forward by Moscow as one of the conditions for a ceasefire. By the way, Trump himself announced yesterday that news about a possible truce will be on March 17, and he hopes that this news will be good. Meanwhile, a series of publications critically assessing the results of the Kursk operation for Ukraine continues in the Western media. The Telegraph writes that the offensive in the Kursk region may turn out to be Kiev's most expensive mistake. Ukraine's forced withdrawal from Kursk makes peace talks with Russia more likely. Indeed, if Putin had failed to oust the Ukrainian army, he would hardly have even thought about peace talks. He would have demanded that Kiev leave his territory first, the publication writes. Kiev also hoped that the introduction of troops into Russian territory would force Putin to deploy significant forces to retake it, thereby easing the pressure on the front lines in the Donetsk region, but this did not work. Instead, Russia contained and attacked the Kursk salient with limited forces and called in North Korean troops to replenish numbers, the Telegraph writes. Perhaps in Kiev's high command, political rather than military considerations dominated decision-making. When the operation began, the U.S. elections were very close, and there was a need to strengthen support in both the Republican and Democratic camps, as well as in Europe, the article says. It was important to demonstrate strength before the negotiations, but the West's inability to adequately strengthen Ukraine's combat capability over 3 years led to the opposite position. The defeat at Kursk is a tragic allegory for the terrible situation in which Ukraine now finds itself, the publication writes. The Italian La Repubblica believes that the offensive of the Ukrainian armed forces in the Kursk region was a military mistake and a careless political step. What was supposed to serve as a trump card for the Ukrainian authorities in the negotiation process on the exchange of territories may now come back like a boomerang, the publication writes. Russian military telegram channels have been writing for several days that the front came to life in the Orikhiv area on the Melitopol section of the Zaporizhia direction, and Russia has tactical advances there. Recently, Russian telegram channels reported the capture of the village of Pyatakhatki west of Orikhiv and published a video with their flag. And now they claim that Russian troops have also broken through to the neighboring villages of Sherbaki and Mali Sherbaki. It is assumed that this is an attempt to bypass Orikhiv from the west and, hypothetically, disrupt the logistics of the Ukrainian armed forces in this direction. Ukrainian sources did not confirm Russia's advance, but reported attacks in this direction. In the Orikhiv direction, our defenders repelled 7 enemy assaults in the directions of the settlements of Stepovi, Pyatakhatki, and Sherbaki. This is written in the morning report of the Southern Defense Forces. However, later, a representative of the Southern Defense Forces Voloshin said that every day there are more attacks, more assaults, and the situation is becoming more threatening. In the Kherson direction, the enemy is beginning to become more active. In particular, the situation is escalating in the Orikhiv direction, he said. Friends, this channel exists solely thanks to your support. If you have the opportunity and desire to support the channel, I will be very grateful to you. I also want to ask you to leave comments. This helps promote the channel. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.